Welcome to the Elated Egos Podcast with Micheal and Ray. This week's podcast is on relationships, why we have them, and how not to be a dick. Welcome to the Ego. Alright, welcome back to part 4, our final part of the podcast. This one is going to be about strategic relationships. And by strategic relationships, I mean people that you talk to or that you know, not because they're they help you on an emotional level because they're your friends or whatever, but because they do some type of other happy, beneficial thing. Whether that they help you out with homework, they get you the hookup, or that girl likes to slob on your knob every once in a while, you know.
Or it's like a business relationship.
Or it's a business relationship, which I always see drugs as. It's a business relationship. So yeah, let's get started on that. Micheal, do you have any talking points about your strategic relationships?
My grandmother is nothing but business relationship, except with me. Everything she talks to me about. Like, I asked her one day, I'm like, Nana, you're just always business. She's like, that's all you can be. And I was like, no, Nana, you have to have an emotional connection sometimes. Because she's always just, when she's talking to somebody, she just wants to get a point out. She's not really just talking to talk. She's just talking for business. They're just trying to get to an agreement, get something. Like, if you're drug dealing, you're talking money, really. You're not, like, trying to make friends or anything. You're just talking for something.
Yeah. I mean, I have so many strategic relationships that I have. Like, there's probably a lot. I think some of my strategic relationships ended up being great friend relationships later on. But in the beginning, it was just like, go back to that one friend that I was very good friends with. At the very beginning of our relationship, for me, it was strictly strategical. Strictly. He had a great house we could go to smoke. His brother knew a really good dealer. And he always had money and I always had money. And he was just a good person to chill with. Later on, that evolved into an actual friend relationship and then almost a familiar relationship. But the thing is that I have people that I talk to that I only talk to because they help me in a way that is not, it's just not the same as like talking to a friend that you just talk to because, it's fun to talk to them. I talk to these people because, they can help me out on my chemistry homework, or they can help me out, scoring something, or, this dude can give me a ride.
Yeah.
Like, I have friends, or not really friends. I have people that I talk to that I tell them in normal conversation, like, oh yeah, you're my friend. But in the back of my mind, it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Like, there's this one kid. He's a year younger than us. I used to hang out with him a little bit, but it was just for the means of getting weed and shit. Michael might know who I'm talking about. He lives in my neighborhood.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. And like, he is Sketchmaster 3000. I mean, he's not the sketchiest man I've met, but he's one of the sketchiest men I've ever met. He's still young. He carries sheets of 25 in on him because he's a fucking moron and a drug dealer. But like, I used to just talk to him because like, he could get me a hookup. He knew a guy who knew a guy that had good dro or a good bud or whatever, and that was really the only reason I talked to him. And sometimes I saw him as a connective, like, maybe I could get some acid from him. Maybe if I was lucky, I could get shrooms. And really the only reason I talked to him was because his friend, his actual friend at the time, and maybe not actually his friend, maybe it was just a strategic thing, like me to him, was this guy, I'll call him T right now, because that's how I have him in my phone. T was a really good dealer. He could get his hands on pretty much anything that would be sold at a high school. He could get his hands on Valium. He could get his hands on Xanax. He could get his hands on Vicodin and Oxys. And also weed and 25s. In my 25s, I mean 25 N-bombs. If you know what those are, you'll be like, dumb high schooler, you shouldn't be doing that because they can be dangerous. if you take too much.
Yeah.
But
And a lot of other tactical relationships are like with teachers or college professors, especially those.
I think anything like that, if it's within your business, and I do see school somewhat as a business.
Yes, it is. I don't see my teachers as my friends. Some students might. Yeah.
Like some students I see like are probably friends with my English teacher on a an actual friend level, but I see her as just a means to get a grade.
Yes, exactly.
There's no emotional connection, there's no even emotional care about her. I mean, her husband was in the hospital for last week. I'll be honest, I don't fucking care.
Yes, neither do I. I really could care
like,
less.
Get back to your fucking job and do it. Which is a very terrible thing to say, but I'm a selfish human being, and my life is about me, my friends, and my Maddie.
And I noticed a lot of the younger teachers, or like especially in elementary, you always kind of feel like they're a little bit not there for business. They're kind of there to care for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and a lot of the times when you're caring for something, it always you're more easy to argue with you. And I just remember a lot of teachers like kind of treat you like shit. Like with our friend Adrian. One of our teachers like just went off on him for like no reason. You're like, well, you're there for business. You don't need to talk about that. You don't need to get emotion into this.
It was right when her husband was in the hospital. Our English teacher, and she was just like being a fucking prick to him. And me and Michael were like, what the fuck? Chill the fuck out. I don't care.
He was just asking a question.
Yeah. No, none of us knew her husband was in the hospital until she made a fucking remark about, oh my god, I've been up all night. Fucking make sure my husband's okay. It's like, well, no, what if you told us? We would have been like more empathetic to your situation.
And see, like maybe
don't be a fucking asshole, you fucking bitch.
Maybe if we were your part of your family or your close friends, like you would be okay because we should know and we should know not to ask that. Maybe.
But it's a fucking teacher.
Exactly, it's your job. You don't bring your outside things into school. That's your job.
I don't bring my life into hers.
Exactly.
Adrian wasn't asking like, hey, do you know the way for me to like talk to my mom in a certain way? No, he was asking for a piece of paper to do an assignment, and she was freaking the fuck out because she can't handle her own shit.
Yeah. Tactical relationships, like, there should be no emotional connection in it. Like, none. Yeah. It's business.
It's for tactical reasons.
Yes. And my nana, she did nothing but business. It kind of makes me mad sometimes, just by the way. And sometimes she just kind of talks to me like that. Until I told her one day, I'm like, Nana, we could just talk about weird stuff, and we're family and we're close, so we don't have to like just sit here and talk about how I have to college and grades and everything. Nana, I know my plan. You don't need to keep talking to me about it. We could talk about something cooler or more interesting. But that's just the way she is. She's just grown up in a very, very business tactical relationship setting. And tactical relationships, there's such a big difference between any other relationship. And a lot of people seem to forget that. Like, for instance, teachers, especially teachers, actually. I remember my elementary teachers, they're just, I don't know, I just feel like they were more emotionally connected with their students.
Yeah. I mean, I think for elementary school teachers and even like some intermediate school teachers, they see us as children, which we are.
Yeah.
I mean, we're younger, we're less emotionally stable. Kids tend to make bigger deals out of things than they actually are because their world is so tiny in their perspective.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you need to understand how to work with children and how to work with those little emotional balls of craziness, and you have to care for them more. Yep. It's a more time-consuming, brain-consuming task, if you can understand what I'm saying with that. For high school teachers, they see us as like, oh, well, you're an adult, even though they treat none of us like adults.
Yeah.
It's like, you're an adult, you're in 10th grade, you should be doing this like this, and then they still treat us like fucking children.
And
that's mixed messages, and it's really annoying.
And that's like I hate when people just say, respect your elders. I'm like, no,
you have to earn my respect.
Exactly. I'm like, it's the same. I hate that. Or like they treat you like, you're just a kid. I'm like, I'm just a kid, but I guarantee you I know a lot more about the world than you do.
I mean, I wouldn't say that.
Well, yeah, but you never know.
You never know.
Like,
I mean, I could school every single one of my teachers on the pharmacological sciences, and they'd be like, what? Like, my statistics teacher last year, he's no longer at the school. We talked about him a little bit on last week's podcast. He had a stepson who became kind of like a druggie and shit. And he was talking about him in class. It was kind of a lull in the class period. It was after AP testing, so it didn't matter anymore. And he was talking about like, oh yeah, and like how some people can become addicted after one time. And I talked to him and I was like, no, that's not how addiction works. That's just not how addiction works on a fundamental level. And he was like, oh, well, I don't think I really changed his mind, but I think I altered or I changed how his perspective could be. You know, he understands that there's multiple ways of looking at things, and that his thing where he had some drug counselor talk to him one time about like, oh, you take one hit from the crack pipe and you're done for life. No, it's not true. That's not how addiction works. Addiction is formed through subsequent uses of a addicting substance to the point that substance itself not really replaces, but becomes, I guess you could say it replaces the natural neurotransmitter in that certain part, whether it's in the reward center or it has downstream effects to the reward.
What was that
center.
really addictive drug you talked to me about one time? Like you did it and then you were just like, oh my god, this isn't enough. I need to do more. It was like Xanax or no?
Oh, are you talking about where it was like I could highly see the addictive?
Yes, yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
It was Xanax. Alprazolam. Alprazolam and all benzodiazepines are very, very weird. Is that you feel like you could take more and more and more, and you don't feel that more fucked up. Even though when you take 2+ milligrams of alprazolam or Xanax bars, as they're called in the hip hop world, you start acting sloshed. Like, it looks like you're super fucking drunk. You don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
about
I've seen people
shit.
on it. They just look like they're brain dead almost.
Yeah, they're brain, because the way benzodiazepines work is that they're basically like alcohol. They work on the same exact receptors, but they actually stimulate them directly, unlike alcohol, which just is an allosteric modulator. Which just allows more GABA to go through the synapse, and GABA GABA has a stronger effect on the receptors, while benzodiazepines actually stimulate the receptors. I would have to. This is a talk for a different podcast. Yeah. But I mean,
going back to what I said earlier about like when I said I might know about more about just people in general.
Yeah.
Like, my dad, for instance, oh my gosh, I can't even. I would go. This would be like a complete. I can make that into a whole different topic and talk about it for like hours. But I just remember when he was arguing with me one day over text, because I can't argue with a person. Like, I know it's like kind of a pussy thing to argue over text, but I can't get my view out to him, or because he just interrupts me, won't let me talk. And that's really childish in my opinion, when you won't let somebody talk.
Do you see your dad do you see that as like just like?
I see him as like I'm older than him. Yeah. Really.
And does he have any strategic value to you, or is he
actually? Yeah, I talked to my dad very tactically.
Yeah.
When I was talking to him, because I had to make sure like I can't say anything that might offend him, or else he's gonna be a little bitch about it and argue with me all the time. So I have to be like very, very tactical in what I say.
You have to be very strategic in the way that you talk to people.
And it shouldn't be like that, in my opinion.
Shouldn't.
That's something you do with business or your teachers or something. But that's my father. Like, I can't have a whole conversation with him without him like getting offended and going off on me. And like, he was texting me one day, and I was giving like 4-paragraph arguments, and like the way I felt, and he was giving me back little remarks. Like, he used the same argument every time. He would call me a child, or he would call me my mom's last name, McNatt. And I'm like, that's the only thing you can counter me with. This has nothing to do with our actual subject. How are you even still providing an argument? Yeah. And the stuff he would say to me was just making me mad. And then ever since that day, I never looked at him as an adult. I just looked at him as a teenager. And like, it really showed me, I was like, you're pretty much become an adult coming into high school. Maybe not like an actual adult. Maybe you still learn stuff as an adult. But
you do.
And But sometimes with some people, they just kind of stay a teenager.
Yeah, they never grow up.
They just never grow up.
And I think those people you can't even have a real relationship with if you are a mature person.
Yes.
Like, I feel like Michael and I mean, this is a very ego thing to say. Fuck it. It's the Elated Egos Podcast. I think we're very mature for our age.
Really? Exactly.
I think we are. I look at other people and I'm like, I mean, some people are mature, but I look at other people and I'm just like, how the fuck are you gonna survive this?
Exactly. Like my
you
my
don't
nana
know how to behave in a business situation.
And like even my nana notices it. Like she kind of makes me feel insane sometimes, but I'm like I know I'm not because I know I'm consciously still there. Like I have self-control. Like I'm not gonna just go out like murdering people, and because I'm very strong-minded. I know I won't. Like I don't see the reason for it unless someone ever like really like hurt me, as in like they killed my wife or something. I would fucking flip shit, but I think that's everybody.
Yeah.
And but even my nana notices like I'm different. Like I'm very wise. I don't like to say I'm wise. Like I think I'm wise, but I'm still have that some of the personal things that I know like I could do something better or something smarter decisions. But she still thinks I'm wise for my age, I should say. I know I'm not wise. But I know I'm very, very mature.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't like that. Like a good amount of people in high school are just not like that.
Yeah.
Some of them are just assholes. Some of them are just plain dumb. Some of them like just have no plan in their life. They're just really unorganized. They're just living by the moment. Like my friend, just live by everyday life. And I kind of really see us still as animals sometimes.
Well,
we're just very instinctual.
Yeah.
And the animals that have the ability to think like very, very vividly.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure dogs can think, but not as like vivid as
humans.
As humans, and
I think the only thing I think I might be just talking out of my big booty right now, but I think pretty much the only animals that even close to us would be cetaceans like whales and porpoises and dolphins, and of course the higher apes like gorillas and chimps and bonobos.
Yeah, I read somewhere the dolphins are like one of the smartest animals or mammals.
They're fairly intelligent.
Yes. And I notice a lot of people kind of just live like just regular, like dogs, for instance. Like they just kind of do what they personally want and what their subconscious wants them to do. They
go through the motions and just live on a very instinctual way.
And see, the reason why I don't think I'm as wise as I would like to be is just because my conscience or the things I want isn't like it used to be. Like if my mom was still alive and I still had a stable home, I'd probably be like one of my really close friends, like just kind of living by my subconscious, not really giving too much thought into things. And I'm still learning, like learning from my mistakes and self-improving. And I noticed not a lot of people like to self-improve.
No.
Nobody, they just kind of stay the same. They just live by what their subconscious wants. They don't really put too much thought behind it. And some people are really good at living by their conscious than others. I'm not one of those people. I still have like I divided up my brain into 3 parts. Like when I took the acid, I kind of figured out how my brain was. It was really weird. I have a circle in my this is all part of my brain. I have and I got into geometric patterns. Like I have a conscience. And the more round my conscience is the more, like, I live by my conscience. But right now, I kind of see my conscience as, like, a jelly bean, like, the way it's shaped. I still have a little bit of a personal wants and whatnot. I know it kind of sounds crazy. And then I have my brain, which is just nothing but personal wants. And then I have a perfect circle, which is, like, what I know is the right answer, what I should do. And I think that's more, like, the more, like, you could see, like, the more transparent, like, the less transparent the color is, like, the more round your conscience will be. And that the circle is what's really, really, really right and what's really wrong. And I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to round my conscience into being perfect, but it's still kind of a little misshapen.
Become a well-rounded person.
Exactly. It's crazy what drugs can teach you sometimes. People really underestimate it. They think, oh my God, drugs are just going to ruin you. And I'm like, I think it's like kind of with alcohol. Like if you use alcohol to just get out your anger and get mad or the whole thing, it's probably not the best idea to drink alcohol.
But if you use it as a social lubricant to talk to people,
exactly,
it's amazing.
Exactly. And with maybe like a psychedelic, everybody like says they're gonna go find your spirit animal or whatnot. I don't think that. I think it's more to help you.
It's an emotional tool.
Exactly. It really teaches you some things. But see, with me, I can't handle psychedelics. I think it's just my brain maybe not as developed as it should be yet. So I'm going to wait until I'm a little bit older.
Yeah.
And
it just might not be for you.
And that too.
Like, I think I'm designed for psychedelics.
Yeah, you do surprise me.
Dude, like, I can do them so much.
See, I figured out...
handle it.
I can figure out a lot from it, but... I notice the side effects afterwards when I'm sober. Like, it almost feels like I'm kind of brain dead. Like, I won't think. I'll just kind of just be... And like everybody else, kind of just living by their subconscious. And I don't like that. I like to think constantly.
Yeah.
And I think I finally recovered from my last trip.
Yeah. I find that after a trip, I feel more human. That I feel like I'm able to connect with people even more.
Yeah,
so.
and it's weird to, like, for some people, like, I talk to my Nana about it sometimes. Like, I tell her I want to go travel somewhere to do ayahuasca one day, and she kind of is like, oh my god, my grandson's a drug addict. I'm like, no, Nana, don't look at me like that. You know how I'm doing in school. You know how I talk. It's not because of the drugs. It's because of my conscience, and nothing's gonna ruin that.
Does she know exactly what ayahuasca is?
I talked to her about it. I told her like the basics of it. I said it's like one of the most powerful psychedelics out there, and it's what the Indians used to use to find their spirit animal, and that's just about all I told her.
Not really. That was more of a mescalito thing, but I understand what you're trying to say.
And I just told her about that, and she's like, and I sensed like she was just, oh my god, my grandson's a druggie. But I talked to her out because I talked to my Nana about everything. I'm very blunt. I'm very honest, and I talked to her about it. And I talked to her about it. I told her, like, Nana, you don't have to worry about me going off on a deep end like some of my friends. It's just nonstop getting fucked up all the time and just not improving. I use drugs as like a tool, a couple different tools, an escape from reality, and to just think a little bit more clearly and whatnot. And I remember one of my other close friends, Alex. I let him smoke weed a couple weeks ago, and one of the first things he said to me, he's like, I can just think so much more clearly now. And it was just weird hearing him talk on it sometimes, because I was like, wow, it's just weird that you could tell he really was thinking. Yeah. Like, he was just thinking very clearly on it. And because just some people are just so distracted by their reality and their everyday lives and everything. And it just shows you, like, with tactical thinking, the more sober you are, the more you think, the more tactical, the better tactical, or better, how do I say, the more tactical you are with a lot of your talking and whatnot. Like, well, that's for me every now and then. And like you said, like, when you take a psychedelic, you're more easy to talk to people and everything.
Yeah, it helps, like, shift my perspective into not just thinking about myself, but thinking about how I act around other people.
Yeah.
I use it as a social tool. I don't take them in public, or at least I try not to. There's been a couple times. But I try not to. I use it for personal improvement to make me a better person so I can be better be a better friend, be a better lover, be a better person in general.
Yeah.
Whoop. That's... Alright, 1 second.
Hello? What were you saying?
Alright, sorry about that little interruption. Michael got a little call from business Nana.
Yeah, and the reason why she called me, very tactically again, she asked me how I was doing, have I eaten, and it's gonna rain. It's unbelievable. Like, she's just straight up tactical all the freaking time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember where we left off.
It's all cool. We're coming near the end of the podcast. To be honest, for this section, we got really off topic.
Yeah, we did.
We started to talk more about ourselves and actual strategic relationships, but hell, that's a part of indulging into our own egos and indulging into intelligent thoughts with each other, and just having a conversation with each other, and bringing this conversation to you guys, because I do believe this conversation, it is interesting. Thank you very, very much for listening to the podcast. I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed it. This is the final part. If you want to listen to the entirety of it, it's going to come up tomorrow on Friday. Or if you're listening to it right now for the whole version, and it's currently Friday or Saturday or blah, blah, blah. I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed it. This will be going up on SoundCloud if you're listening to it on SoundCloud right now. Hi, I want your babies. Please comment, please like, please subscribe if you enjoy our videos. If you have any criticisms, please put them down in the comments. If you have any topics you want us to talk about, like we hinted at a couple topics today that I think we would be very good at talking about, please tell us about it. Please talk to us. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening to the Elated Egos Podcast. Y'all have a wonderful day.